What's good, Guardians? Today, we're taking a look at a build that could be the new meta for Warlocks because the new exotic that came out with a final shape, Mataidoxia, is pretty insane. You can really take advantage of any GM or really any endgame content, and another great thing is that you'll be able to use whatever weapons you want. However, Outbreak is really good with this. You'll be able to see in the gameplay how well it works, as well as how often you'll be able to use Transcendent and get our super ability. We'll break down everything from the subclass and mods to the weapons and gear, and of course, a dim and MOBALYTICS link will be down in the description below if you want to go ahead and save it to your own Guardian. But now let's dive right in. First up, let's talk about our subclass selection. For this build, we're going to be choosing Prismatic, and for the super, we have Song of Flame. Song of Flame is really potent. It does a lot of damage here, and you can absolutely melt champions, deal a lot of damage to bosses, and add clear like crazy. For the abilities here, I chose to use Phoenix Dive. That way you can get a fast way to heal yourself. For the movement ability, we're looking at Burst Glide here, but you can go ahead and choose whatever you like. For the melee, this one's really important. You have to choose Arcane Needle. This is going to be the ability that's going to let you suspend as many enemies as you can. And then lastly, for the grenade, you go and choose whatever you like. I like to use a Storm Grenade because it does massive damage right now. Going on to the aspects here, first one I chose to use is going to be Hellion. So whenever you activate your class ability, which is going to be Phoenix Dive, you're going to summon a solar mortar that lobs flaming projectiles at distant targets, and targets damaged by the mortar are scorched. This is going to be another great way to get a little buddy that's going to do a lot of damage for you, and you don't really have to worry about it. You're going to be proccing it a lot as well, because every time you Phoenix Dive, it's going to be there for you. After that, we got Feed the Void. Defeating a target with any ability activates Devour, and your Devour effects are improved, restoring additional health and grenade energy. This is going to help you get your grenade back, as well as heal. Next up, onto the fragments here. First one we have is Facet of Devotion. Defeating targets affected with stasis or strand debuffs grants light transcendent energy. Since enemies are going to be affected by our melee, that's going to be a strand debuff. We're going to get a nice bonus. After that, we have Facet of Purpose, which picking up an Orb of Power is going to give us restoration back because of the super that we're using here. Restoration, of course, going to be able to heal us over time. Then we got Facet of Dominance. Your Void grenades weaken targets, and your Arc grenades jolt targets. So since we're using an Arc grenade, it's going to go ahead and jolt targets, making it so you can go ahead and stun overload champions and do increased damage. For the fourth one here, we got Facet of Courage. Your Arc, Solar, and Void abilities deal increased damage to targets afflicted by darkness debuffs. We're going to do a lot of darkness debuffs here with our melee charges. This just means that our grenade is going to be able to do even more damage. And then lastly, here we got Facet of Dawn. Your powered melee hits against targets makes you radiant, and powered melee final blows make you and nearby allies radiant. Radiant's just another good way to do increased damage again, but we also have a way to go ahead and stun barrier champions as well. Next, let's take a look at our seasonal artifacts and the mods that would go great with this build. Always going to be a lot of options here. I'm just going to go down and choose a couple of them. First one we got here is going to be Radiant Orbs. While you have a Solar or Prismatic subclass equipped, picking up an Orb of Power makes you Radiant. I do realize we have other ways to get Radiant, like with your melee, but just in case you're out of melees and you need to become Radiant quickly, picking up an Orb is going to help you do that. Second here, we have Solar Fulmination. Your ignitions do increased damage in an increased radius. Your Hellion's going to be able to scorch targets, which will create ignition, so that's going to be helpful for this, as well as for what we're using for a secondary energy weapon. This is also going to be coming in handy. And then lastly here, we'll throw on Shield Crush. Shield Crush here is an absolute beast. The effect that we're going to be taking advantage of is going to be while you're amplified or radiant, your grenade recharges faster and deals increased damage. Just another way to boost that grenade damage. Next, let's go ahead and optimize our armor with stats and mods. Pretty quickly here, for the mods here I'm choosing to use, it's going to be Resilience because you want the damage reduction up to 30%. After that, let's go ahead and put that Discipline on because you want to get your grenade back as much as possible. And then lastly here, we have Strength. Strength is going to be nice because you want your melee as much as possible as well, but no worries there. We're also going to have different chances to get our melee back even faster too. Starting off with the armor here, of course, let's start with the helmet. We got one heavy ammo finder mod. You can kind of switch this out with a special ammo mod if you want. It kind of depends on whatever secondary or heavy weapons you're running and what you want more of. But after that, we have two kinetic siphon mods. Rapid kinetic final blows create an Orb of Power. Orbs of Power are going to help us get basically all our abilities back, as we'll see here in a second. But next, let's go on to the gauntlets. First up, we got Firepower. Your grenade final blows create Orbs of Power. And then we have two impact induction mods. Causing damage with a powered melee attack reduces your grenade cooldown. We're trying to get the grenade up as much as possible here. Now we're going on to the chest piece. This is actually going to be where our exotic lies, Mataidoxia, brand new exotic armor piece that just came out with the final shape. The armor perk list here is going to be targets damaged by Arcane Needle emit a suspending detonation when defeated, and landing multiple Arcane Needles at the same time immediately triggers a larger and more powerful detonation. Defeating suspended targets grants melee energy, and your arcane needles are strong against barrier champions. So this all has to do with your melee here, of how much melee energy we can get back as fast as possible, and you're throwing out those arcane needles. Whenever you hit one enemy and you kill the enemy, it's going to suspend everything around it. This is a really good item for GMs and other in-game content. For the armor mods, I have 2 resist mods. It kind of depends, I guess, whatever you're running that week of what kind of resist mods you want here. Right now I have Arc and Solar. Go ahead and choose whatever you like. And then for the third mod here, I have Charged Up, which increases the maximum number of stacks of your armor charge you can carry by 1. Next up, we have the leg armor here, and the first mod I chose to use is going to be the Recuperation mod, which replenishes health each time you pick up an Orb of Power. Then we have Absolution, which reduces all ability cooldowns each time you pick up an Orb of Power. And then lastly, we have Kinetic Weapon Surge, which just gives us a little bit of a damage buff to our kinetic weapon that we're going to be using. You can choose to change this to another surge if you want. It kind of depends on whatever your main weapon is going to be. For me, I'm actually going to be using Outbreak, so this just makes the most sense. And then lastly here, onto the class ability. First one we got is going to be Outreach, which reduces melee cooldown when using your class ability. Then Powerful Attraction, which automatically collects nearby orbs when you use your class ability. And then we have Reaper, which shortly after using your class ability, your next weapon Final Blows spawns an Orb of Power. So all 3 of these mods are going to be built around your Phoenix Dive, so go ahead and spam it when you got it, or you can go ahead and save it when you need. Now let's talk weapons. The right loadout can make a huge difference with this build. First weapon I'm going to be using is actually going to be the Outbreak Perfected Exotic Pulse Rifle. This thing is an absolute beast if you haven't used it already. This thing's an absolute beast. If you don't have it crafted, you absolutely need to get it crafted. For me, I have one with rewind rounds, and the amount of damage this guy does to not only adds, but also champions as well is insane. For my energy slot here, I'm actually using the brand new Sidearm Aberrant Action. This thing is an absolute beast. It can hold tons of ammo, and it also has Heal Clip and Incandescent on it, which is going to be perfect for the Solar Fulmination mod we have on. Really nice way to do quick ad clear as well as heal. This is another weapon where if you don't have it crafted yet, you need to get on that. And for the last slot here for the power weapon, I just chose to use a Solar Rocket. You can use whatever one you like. Apex Predator is really, really good right now. I got Reconstruction and Explosive Light on mine. Just another way to melt champions or bosses. Lastly, let's talk about any sort of play style or gameplay loop we need to. It's actually very simple. All you need to do is throw out a melee at an enemy, kill that enemy, and it's going to suspend everything around it. If it's a stronger enemy and you want to try to suspend it as soon as possible, you just throw all your melees at it. It's going to suspend itself, and then you can go ahead and kill it. The build itself is incredibly easy to use. There's really not much to it. All it is about staying safe and suspending enemies for easy kills. But that's it for today's build guide. With this setup, you'll be able to demolish champions and pretty much make any in-game content easy. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future content. And let me know in the comment section what you want to see next. And until next time, stay safe, Guardians.